Hello, everybody. I'm Jilla Webb. Welcome to Artist Essentials, where singers become performers. I've had a couple of questions come in from students, and I thought what I would do is just do a little presentation for you and answer some of the questions, especially because we all have more time right now. Now's a great time to study and get things going for when everything opens back up in the world. Okay, so Ann C. writes, how do you put emotion into a song when you're concentrating on getting the notes, phrasing, and volume correct? Maybe I'm looking for too much perfection. Well, I think there's several things involved here. One is obviously your vocal technique and what your voice is capable of doing. The other thing I think really is learning to have a conversation within the song. Songs are really stories, right? And our job as an artist, as a singer, is really to tell the story in a convincing and believable way. And the only real way to do that, to make that emotional connection with someone else, is to really be living the story. It's to really believe the story yourself. It's to have the conversation for real, not just put up this next slide. It's not just singing notes and words. I mean, that's kind of what karaoke singers do, is they sing the notes and they're concerned about, you know, getting all the right words in the notes. But for us as real singers, it really becomes about living the story. It becomes about being involved and right there in the moment of the story, feeling it from your side to their side, right? You have to be able to feel it first in order for anyone else to feel what it is you're living. Okay. Singing is a form of storytelling. Communicating emotion and experience. It's giving your audience an experience, not just, you know, again, not just a bunch of words, not just a bunch of notes. You're really, what you're doing is communicating an experience to them. They may not remember what you said exactly. They may not remember everything that you wore. They may not remember all the songs that you played in order, but they will remember how you made them feel. And so you have to communicate that emotion. You have to get that across. And there's a variety of ways and a lot of things to think about when you're doing that. Let's separate out vocal technique because that's really important. We'll talk about it at the end. But being real and authentic and genuine in your delivery is what's going to get across that emotional side of things. And then, like she was saying, phrasing and all that other stuff really needs to be practiced separately. That's all technical stuff. Where the real emotion comes in is just from telling the story from a real, authentic perspective that you are feeling. Okay, so how do you communicate your emotions with your audience? What forms of communication are you using to convey those? Are you using verbal communications? Are you using nonverbal, symbolic communications? Are you using physical communication? Are you creating eye contact with your audience? These are things we'll talk about a little bit later, but those are all ways that you interject emotion and you convey emotion to your audience. I think it's important too that you must build a trust relationship with your audience. If they don't trust you from the beginning, what you're telling them, whether it's perfectly believable or not, they may not buy into it. They have to trust you as a performer and feel comfortable with you. There has to be some level of comfort with you, or what you're saying is not as impactful. It's not as effective. Okay. I think it's important to be conversational and be approachable. If you are having a conversation, your songs are a conversation. And we'll talk about that as we get farther down into the slides too. But your songs, singing is a conversation in two ways, between you and the person you're thinking about, the situation you're thinking about. There's a conversation there, and a conversation with your audience. And even in a bigger sense, the conversation as well with the people that you're on stage with. That can help as well get the emotional impact across to your audience. You have to find the meaning. Meanings change with what you emphasize. So we'll look at that in the slides. And then your vocal and breathing techniques, which are ultimately very important. They're the foundation of all of this. It's a conversation between you and your audience. It's a conversation between you and the person that you're thinking about. Like right now, as I'm doing this, not only am I thinking about a broad audience, but I'm thinking about specific students that have asked these kinds of questions and talking directly to you in a way that hopefully is comfortable for you to understand. There are also social and cultural connections to your story or your song. Um, they they read differently. They land differently in different social situations. You have to know who your audience is, and you have to know about the song itself. Different songs carry different connotations. If you're doing a song from the civil rights era, or a song possibly from the 60s where they're talking about the Vietnam War, or a song from Motown or later in the 60s when they're talking about social change. Those things are different than a dance song. They convey a different message and they require a different emotional impact. You also have regional, national, or international connections to your songs. If you're singing the Lee Greenwood song, God Bless the USA, that has a very nationalistic sort of appeal to it. It's a nation song. Regional songs, it's St. Patty's Day. So if you're singing an Irish folk song, that's a very regional, it's country, but it's regional. It's small, and it's very impactful when you do it correctly in the right circumstance. An international song, Paul Simon did with Graceland. He took a very international approach and added a lot of different voices from around the world on that record. There's different emotional connections and different ways you approach emotion, depending on what kind of a song you're singing. Again, your physical connection to your song could be like getting your audience to clap along, getting them to sing along, getting them to dance, maybe even going out and experiencing some dancing with them. That's a physical connection that creates an emotional attachment to your song, right? So you can go out and do that and have a great time with your audience, and it really stays with them. It creates this lasting experience between you and they, and it's something they'll carry with them. Emotional or intellectual connection to your story. Again, if you're singing something that is more intellectually based, if you're singing a song that's from a songwriter who is really wordy or uses a lot of intellectual words or talks about a very deep subject, maybe it's war, maybe it's famine, maybe it's oppression, and they do it in a very intellectual way, you're going to tell that that's going to be a different emotional delivery than a love song or say something deep soul from the Muscle Shoals area. That's a different kind of delivery. It's a different kind of emotional attachment that you want to get across to your audience. Again, what kinds of forms can you use? Verbal, non-verbal. Verbal is singing, talking, right? I'm going to tell you a story about the time that we all got kicked out of the club, right? Anyway, it's the verbal connection that you have. It's the actual words that you're singing, the melody that you're singing. It's that verbal description or delivery of your song. Nonverbal can be anything, anything that you're doing that is not spoken. Those things are nonverbal. Other things that are nonverbal are crossed arms. If I tip this down, if I sat here and did this and crossed my arms, this is a nonverbal. I'm communicating to you that maybe I'm a little closed. This is closed body posture, as opposed to really opening up and saying, "Hey, I'm right here." This can happen with the microphone too. I know a ton of singers who will grab that mic in the stand. They'll grab this way and they'll just lock down like this. And what you see from the audience is this, right? That's a very closed, you really can't, you don't have a lot of exposure to me, rather than taking the microphone and opening up your body posture. Again, looking people in the eye contact is a great way for communication and emotion to happen. the look on your face and the smile in your eyes, really connecting to someone. When you look at them, they know that they're there. They know you're acknowledging them. They know they're an important part of that moment, and it's lasting. It's lasting, and it's very important. Um, Dynamic conversation. Are you listening? It is a two-way communication. It really is a two-way communication in your head between you and whoever it is that you're talking to in the song, but it's very much a two-way communication between you and your audience. Okay? They're giving you cues all the time about what you're doing, if it's working or not. If it's not working, you have to be aware and you have to try a different form of communication. So how do you make an emotional communication? How do you make that connection with your song? Well, it varies. I mean, a good artist knows that every single performance is different. And thank God, because we all feel different from moment to moment, from day to day, right? Everybody feels different. It would be inauthentic. It would be fake. It would be lying if you tried to do something perfectly every time, because we don't feel the same way in every single moment. I would not sing a song the same today as I did yesterday because I feel different today. You know, maybe I didn't sleep. Maybe I have allergies. Maybe I'm better than I was yesterday. It's not going to be the same. But if I try to make it in this little box that people say perfection, it becomes sterile and it becomes overdone and it becomes expected and anticipated. And it takes the joy and the uncertainty and the surprise out of your performance. So I say to artists, you have to be aware part of your emotional delivery will come from your audience. It will come from being aware of what you're doing. You have to be in touch and you have to be looking for the cues and clues that they're giving you. The nonverbal, the verbal, the symbolic clues that they're giving you. Maybe you have a bunch of fans out there and they've all worn your t-shirt. That's a good symbolic clue that they're there to enjoy what you're doing, right? Okay. Trust. Again, this comes down to what your personal brand is. You have to build a personal brand that is authentic and is real to you. It's unique and it's real to you because it's going to be with you forever. And if you build something that somebody wants you to do or someone wants you to be like this, and it goes against who you are personally, your core values, it's going to rub, and eventually people are going to see through it, and you're going to see through it, and you're going to be unhappy, and you're not going to give the performance, you're not going to give this social media, you're not going to give anything in a true and authentic way. People are going to feel that. You're going to feel that. So it's really important that you build a brand that you are good with, that you love, that you get up in the morning and you look yourself in the mirror and you say, yeah, I believe in what I'm doing and I love this. This is the right thing. This is my moral compass is set. And it's set forever, because changing who you are in the entertainment industry is a tricky business. It's not easily done, and you really need to be true to who you are from the beginning. That's going to build that trust, and then they're going to be more open to anything that you're saying emotionally to them because they believe you're giving them something real. You're not lying, and they're going to see and feel that. Okay, conversational approach. When you talk, you have ups and downs, you pause, you stretch things out, you might think about, hear all those extra sounds. You can add those when you sing, and it becomes like a conversation. It's like a warm pair of slippers, right? People recognize conversation, and they recognize when it's real, and they recognize when it's passionate. The other thing is to be approachable. I think, again, real is what people are looking for. Hopefully you can see, this is who I am. This is the way I talk. This is what I do when I teach. This is just how you'll find me in my studio, right? Be approachable. Meet people where they are. Don't talk down in your descriptions and your transitions between songs. Don't talk down to your audience. They're in the same place you are, right? Sometimes people try to get very intellectual and they say all these big things and it just comes off as not them. Now, if that's who you are, I mean, if you're Sheldon, then be Sheldon. But if you're not, be you and realize that people are people and we're all just hanging out and we're coming together, especially now, to not feel so alone. Music is an incredibly powerful tool when you can sing, when you can really convey those emotions to somebody else. It connects in a way that nothing else does. The human voice will connect to people in a way that nothing else can. And in this time, especially in this time, people are so isolated. Music and singing and really having that authentic, real, honest connection is what people are looking for. If you can deliver that, you're going to help a whole lot of people. And you're going to feel very good about doing it. Okay, finding the meaning. If you do this exercise, and you can take it with any sentence you want, just keep emphasizing different parts of the sentence. So you would emphasize what I have italicized and put in bold. I believe in you. I believe in you. I believe in you. You see how the meaning changes? So I do think it's good to kind of look at those things and figure out what you're trying to say. But again, don't put it in a box like this is the only thing it can ever mean. It might mean something different if you've just had a conversation with someone earlier in the day and then they're in your audience. You might actually deliver this line right to that person. Give yourself the ability to change because it keeps your music and it keeps your set really fresh and exciting and new for the audience. And most of all, beyond all of that, it keeps it real. It keeps it real in the moment. It keeps it honest. And that's what people are looking for at the end of the day. Here we are at the end of this vocal and breathing techniques. Of course, if your voice is incapable of doing the things that you might want to try to do in a song to get an effect, you might want to really jump from a low note to a high note suddenly. You might want to really belt a note like it just feels like you just really want to hang on to this note forever, but you don't have the breath support to do it. If you want to do this really exciting flurry, this run, but you don't have the vocal technique and flexibility to do it, these are things that you practice separately. This is a whole separate practice, and you should be vocalizing, doing exercises, vocal exercises, breathing exercises. You should be doing all of that daily. Some part of that should be a daily thing for you, so that when you get to the stage and when you really start putting it all together, right? When you really start putting it all together, it just happens. It's like a ballet dancer does all the bar work. They do all the pliés and the frappés and, the tendus. They do all of those things at the bar to make sure that their muscles are working in the right way. And then they get out into the middle of the floor and they dance. So your vocal exercises and your breathing exercises that you do, that's like your bar work, right? And your song is like your dance. That's where it all comes together. I think the whole thing really, really gets wrapped up one more time in this. Live the story. For those 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 7 minutes, you really have to live what you're singing. Not saying the words, not thinking about the melody. You have to actually be feeling the feelings of that story, and you have to be talking to someone specific. If you've never had that experience, pretend. Find some way to connect yourself to that story, to the lyrics, and live them. Don't sing them, live them. All right. I hope this was helpful. Let me know with more questions, and I will do another one of these very soon.